3 trucks, 300,000 miles each, and only one of them was worth what I paid for it. Not because the other 2 were bad trucks, because at 300,000 miles, what you find inside the engine tells a completely different story than what the odometer tells you outside. And in this case, 2 of those stories ended with a repair bill that changed the entire math on the purchase. I'm not talking about which engine has the best reputation online. I'm talking about what was actually waiting inside each one when I got them up on my own lift. A 5.0 Coyote, a 5.3 EcoTec3, and a 5.7 Hemi, all 3 over 300,000 miles. All 3 bought inside of 6 months for the same test. And by the time I had all 3 torn down, only one of them gave me a clean answer. The ground rules first, because they matter. These weren't 3 trucks I knew ahead of time. I bought each one privately, had a pre-purchase inspection done by a third party before money changed hands, paid between $4,000 and $7,000 per truck, depending on condition and records, and then went deeper on my own lift once I had them. Same 4 checkpoints every time: valvetrain, cylinder condition, oil control, and whatever showed up outside the engine itself. Same eyes, same bench. Let's get into it. The Ford went up first, a 2015 F-150 with the 5.0 Coyote Vive 8, backed by the 6R86 speed, 312,000 miles. The Gen 2 Coyote, port injection, iron sleeves, forged steel crank. This is the generation most experienced Ford mechanics point to when someone asks which Coyote to buy used, and after pulling it down, I understand why. Before we get into the details, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me a lot. Thank you. Valvetrain first. Timing chain, tensioners, and guides all showing wear, consistent with the mileage and nothing more. No cold start rattle, no slack beyond what 300,000 miles of normal use should produce. At this mileage, I went in expecting at least a hint of chain stretch and had to look twice to confirm there wasn't one. That's the kind of checkpoint you want to be boring. Cylinder condition came back the same way. No scoring on the walls, no glazing that would suggest ring wear beyond normal. Port injection on this generation means fuel washes the intake valves on every stroke instead of bypassing them entirely, so the back of those valves looked considerably cleaner than what you find on a direct injection engine at the same mileage. Oil control was normal. No consumption trend worth flagging. The dipstick told the same story as the odometer. Here is where this test stopped being predictable. The Chevy went up next, a 2016 Silverado with the 5.3 EcoTec3 backed by the 6L80, 307,000 miles. Bore and cylinder condition came back clean. Oil control also looked normal for the mileage. 2 clean checkpoints, so far, looking almost identical to the Coyote. Then I pulled the valve covers. This engine uses active fuel management, GM's cylinder deactivation system. Before I even had the covers off, there was a tick under load. The previous owner mentioned it almost as an afterthought, said it had been there for a while and never gotten worse. That's the exact kind of noise that's easy to write off. Don't write it off. What I found behind those covers was early stage wear concentrated in the exact area that AFM hardware is documented to stress. The way the system works, a small locking pin inside each deactivation lifter switches the cylinder off under light load. Every time that pin moves, the spring and the roller bearing take stress they wouldn't take in a conventional lifter. Over 300,000 miles of switching events, the math eventually catches up. Left alone, what I was looking at is the early chapter of a story that ends with all 16 lifters, a new cam, a new timing set, and $2,000 to $3,000 at a shop. Caught now, it's a scheduled repair. Caught after the pin collapses completely, it's metal in the oil, and a different conversation entirely. That finding is the headline of this whole comparison. Not because this engine was falling apart, it was still running every day when I bought it, but because it's the one checkpoint across all 3 trucks that changes the purchase math the most. Put it next to the Ford. The Coyote's worst finding was a valve cover gasket seep, a $150 afternoon fix. The EcoTec3 needed a $3,000 repair to stay ahead of a bigger one. The Ram was supposed to make this easy. 303,000 miles on a 2017 Ram 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi, backed by the 8 HP 78 speed. After what I just found in the Chevy, I went in expecting more of the same. The Hemi also uses cylinder deactivation. Ram calls it MDS, with the same fundamental architecture and the same documented failure mode. 2 engines with the same Achilles heel. I figured the Ram would hand me a matching finding and the Coyote would walk away clean. Bore condition, clean. Oil control, normal for the mileage. 2 checkpoints that came back looking closer to the Ford than to the Chevy. Then came the cold start. 2 ticks. And telling those 2 ticks apart is the whole diagnosis on this engine. The first one showed up the second the key turned. Sharp, coming from the exhaust manifold area. Gave it a minute to come up to temperature, and it faded almost completely as the metal expanded and closed the gap. That's the signature of exhaust manifold bolts on 5.7 engines built before 2018, known to fatigue over time. Caught early, that's a $300 fix. Let one shear below the surface of the head, and you're spending the afternoon with a torch and a pick set. The second tick was still there after the first one quieted. Quieter, more consistent, not tied to temperature. I'll be straight with you, that tick could be MDS-related valve train wear, or it could be something else. I'm not going to hand you a diagnosis I can't back up from one afternoon on a lift. It's a flag, not a verdict. And a flag at that mileage means the next conversation before buying is a proper valve train inspection, not a handshake. One confirmed cheap finding, one open question that kept the Ram out of the clean column. Line all 3 up the way I checked them. The Coyote, 3 clean checkpoints, 1 minor gasket, the best transmission I tested, and a purchase price I'd pay again. The EcoTec3, 2 clean checkpoints, 1 valve train finding that costs real money if it's ignored long enough to become a full failure. The Hemi, 2 clean checkpoints, 1 confirmed inexpensive finding, and 1 open question that a proper inspection might close. Here's what separates the truck that was worth it from the others. Not the brand, not the mileage, not the price on the listing. It was the maintenance history combined with what the engine showed me when I got inside it. The Coyote had records going back to nearly the beginning. Every oil change documented, every service interval hit. At 300,000 miles, that documentation is worth more than the truck itself. If you're standing in front of one of these 3 engines at ultra-high mileage, here is exactly what I'd do before I handed over $1. Get a cold start. Listen before the engine is touched. On the EcoTec3, a warm tick that pairs with any misfire history is a cam and lifter conversation. Price accordingly, or walk. On the Hemi, separate the manifold tick from anything that persists warm. Pull the oil fill cap and look inside. Pull the dipstick and smell it. Ask for records. If there aren't any, price in the repair you can't see yet. At 300,000 miles, one of these trucks was worth every dollar. That was the Ford. And the reason wasn't the engine. It was how that engine had been treated for the decade before I ever touched it. If you want to see the full inspection process I use on any high mileage truck before $1 changes hands, subscribe so you don't miss it when that video drops. Drop a comment telling me which of these 3 engines you've taken past 200,000 miles and whether the inside matched what you expected. I read all of them. I'll see you in the next one.